Hi, good night. Welcome to Conversation with Rickford Burke. Share the link. You know the drill. Share the link. We're going to have some fireworks here tonight. I am not going to hold back. I have a lot of things to say to the PPP. I have a lot of things to say about how they're governing the country. I have a lot of things to say about the war on African Guyanese. I have a lot of things to say on the response to the PPP war on Afro-Guyanese so far. Share the link. Get into all your Guyanese groups. Good night, everybody. Good afternoon if you're, well, good evening. If you're in the west coast of the United States, if you're in Canada, good night. If you're in Africa and Europe, good morning. I know we have some viewers from Europe and Africa and Asia. So good morning to you. Those of you in London, good morning. Share the link. I'll be back in about 60 seconds. And we'll start, if my technical guys are ready, we'll start this discussion. Share the link. All right. Yes. Good night. So keep sharing the link. Keep sharing this link. Get this link shared to everybody. Call up all your relatives and friends. Let them know it's late in Guyana. I know it's 11 o'clock. It's still early. Share the link. We have an important topic to talk about tonight. So get into all your Guyanese groups on Facebook, on all social media platforms. And always remember, go to YouTube and click on Rickford Burke and subscribe to my page. For those of you who are on Facebook, click the bell at the top right of your Facebook page so that you get the alert whenever we go live. All right, so tonight I want to talk about the arrest of Winston Jordan. And throughout this link, throughout this broadcast, I want you to keep sharing the link. Everyone share the link to everybody they know. So today, the former Minister of Finance, Winston Jordan, was arrested by the racist PPP regime. And, you know, we know this is what they have been doing, trying to embarrass Black leaders, trying to criminalize Black leaders. That's their plan. They want to criminalize Black leaders. They think that they will sit in power for the next 40 years. So they want to destroy every Black leader in Guyana. In addition to that, they want to have revenge on persons from the APNU coalition government. Why? Because, as everybody knows, the PPP government committed massive fraud. Anil Nanlal was charged with fraud, or at least public corruption. Irfan Ali, $271 million fraud. Finance Minister Ashley Singh, $400 and something million fraud. Jennifer Westford, almost $1 billion in fraud. And Michael Brassington, hundreds of millions of dollars in fraud. So the entire PP cabinet of Bar Jagdeo and Donald Ramatar, were a bunch of criminals. Some of them still are backing government today. They were a bunch of criminals. The international community said that they siphoned off the PPP government previous, and the current one is doing the same thing. They siphoned off over $5 billion US from the Guyana economy, from the treasury, from the treasury. $500 billion were lost under the PPP regime, disappeared, thief. They did it through all sorts of schemes, including kickbacks, bribery, whatever it is. And everybody knows that when the APNU coalition government went into power, APNU-FC coalition government went into power, they had to deal with the corruption. And so the police arrested several members of the cabinet, in addition to that, of the then cabinet. In addition to that, they used government funds to build Pradoville. Some of them used government money to build their homes. Others used government money to build the infrastructure of that community. The government was never repaid. So some of them were arrested for that scheme. So they're backing power. Keep sharing the link. They're backing power. And so they want to exact revenge. They want to get revenge, political revenge. They want to destroy everybody. And so they have arrested Vol Lawrence, James Bond, who worked in his capacity as a lawyer on a land transaction. They arrested him for that. They've arrested 8 GCOM officials because the people tried to stop their fraudulent votes. They've arrested police officers. They framed the entire police service commission with crimes so as to break it up. They arrested Trevor Ben, Colvin Heath London. And what they have been doing, they're not only arresting these people, they have been trying to block people from getting jobs internationally. Colvin London is one. And it is Bart Jack there who's doing it. He thinks he's about John. He's the Hitler of the Western Hemisphere. And so today, they arrested Winston, who's a former Minister of Finance. Very distinguished career financial expert who's worked with the Ministry of Finance for decades under both governments. Matter of fact, he served under the PP government as Director of Budget. Somebody who I have known since I'm a teenager. But we expected it coming because Anil Nandlal, who's posing off in the position of Attorney General, who's a criminal himself, who, when he was sworn into government, was a criminal, facing criminal charges before a judge for public corruption, for stealing government assets and other crimes. He has been out there touting this thing. Well, first of all, let me pause on Anil Nandlal. Because Anil Nandlal is one of the most nasty racists in the PPP. And there's no way Anil Nandlal should be allowed to be going around Guyana free. No way. No way he should have his liberty. Because he has been fingered in the murder of Courtney Kamiwe, who was a PNC APNU activist who was gunned down in Diamond days before the election, mere days before the election in 2015. He was murdered. Eyewitnesses tied Nandlal's vehicle to that murder. They tied Nandlal's security to the scene. And then Anil Nandlal himself, he's such a brilliant lawyer. He's like, no, I wasn't there. I was up the road. So he placed himself in the vicinity of the murder. just to give himself enough room because he know people saw his vehicle. And the relatives of of Courtney Camuing had reported that Nanlal had threatened to kill him. When he staged a one-man protest against Anil Nanlal. He don't like me, he came to New York and plotted that I should be dead. And like I've said, he would not live after that either. If they execute their plan. I am saying it. Go ahead, Nanlal, and try to kill Rickford Burke, and if it happens, you ain't gonna live either. Outside of that, Nanlal was caught on tape threatening to murder journalists from Kaitra News. And he has been allowed to get away with all of this because nothing happened. The man is an accused murderer, sitting as Attorney General. Why? Because the people of Guyana allowed it to happen. So he has been the one carrying out this vendetta and drafting motions and letters allegedly on behalf of Suku, and have Suku, or Soku, however they call it, officers sign these documents. And when these documents are signed, you could read them and tell they were not written by police officers. They're legal documents written by, obviously, a lawyer. And then we had intelligence that is Nanlal and his people, allegedly, wrote these documents that Siku or Soku had been sending out. So he's on this vendetta war plot. Keep sharing the link, everybody. Keep sharing the link. If your family in Bartica, Escobo, Borbis, Demerara, Linden, East, Quarantine, West Coast, wake them up. We have serious business to talk about. We got to talk about how we're going to govern this country. So Nanlal has been on this war path with Black people. GCOM officials, PNC officials. And they have gotten away with it because our people are weak. And the PPP sees them as being weak. And they're taking advantage of their weakness. I'm talking about Black leaders in Guyana. But I know the people on the ground are not weak. They need leadership. So they arrested Winston Jordan tonight. This afternoon. And the man, allegedly after they gave him a glass of water, he collapsed. He wasn't feeling well. He had a cardiovascular incident. Not sure if it's a heart attack or a stroke or whatever it is. And I'm not sure if whether he drank something that triggered. But the PPP has been known to poisoning people. So some people have accused the PPP government of poisoning Winston Jordan, and that whatever he ingested triggered a cardiac event. But God only knows. It's a good thing Winston Jordan is not my family. He's a family friend. That he's not related to me. Because there might have been a response. But they arrested Mr. Jordan, drank something from them. They took him to Sparnam police station. He fell ill. They refused to do anything about it. Then they took him to, instead of taking the man to Georgetown Hospital or some hospital of repute in Guyana, they took him to Pleasance Health Center, where the nurse in charge panicked and said, this guy is having a stroke. Or he has symptoms like he's having a stroke. And his blood pressure was off the charts. Anybody's blood pressure would be off the chart in those circumstances. So his attorneys then requested that he be transferred to Georgetown Hospital. Police said, no, we will take him. No, sorry. The nurse called an ambulance. When the ambulance arrived, the police did not want him to go in the ambulance. I guess their instructions were to let him die. Just like when they killed Ronald Waddle, and Roger Khan allegedly called the then PPP Minister of Health, Leslie Ramsamy, and told him Waddle was shot by the Kitty Seawall, and he's being taken to the Georgetown Hospital, and Ramsamy must let the doctors there allow him to die. I didn't make that up. The United States government said that. The United States government put on evidence in court proving that that happened. So maybe their instructions were to don't take him to the hospital, let him die. The PP is capable of anything. Then they decided, no, he will not go with the ambulance, he'll go to the police vehicle. So you have a man in a cardiac event, and the police is saying, oh no, he doesn't need medical attention. We will take him in our car. We don't know where they're going to take him. We don't know what they're going to do with him in that police vehicle. My understanding is that one of the lawyers blocked the police vehicle and said, no, he is going in the ambulance. And so tonight, Mr. George is resting in hospital in Guyana. And people crying. And listen, let me say this. I'm not making nobody from the PP make me cry. Because if I cry, or my family got to cry for something the PP did to me, somebody in the PP going to cry too. It's just plain as simple as that. Plain and simple. Not all of us are church people and pray. You know, well, I'm a church guy, but I am not a fool. Not all of us would turn the cheek. This Christian here ain't turning no cheek. This Christian is going to slap you back. And it's time black people in Guyana start slapping back the PPP. It's been going on for too long. They murdered black people in the 60s and got away with it. They murdered people during their government from 1992 straight to 2011 and got away with it. They ain't gonna slap me or none of my family and get away with it. Because if we can't get justice through the judicial system, there will be people justice. And for anybody who wants to quote me, quote what I'm saying in the context of what I'm saying. I am saying that the PUP has been getting away with the murder of black people for far too long. And it's time black people respond appropriately. And the Amerindian people who they don't like. And the East Indians who don't support them. They've been harming them and murdering them and killing them and getting away with it. And they've been torturing too many people. Keep sharing the link. Keep sharing the link. They've been torturing too many people. They've been persecuting people. Wrongfully prosecuting people. They've been in power for 1 year. They've been in power for 1 year. And instantly, on their assumption of office, they began charging people. They have not gotten one conviction as yet. Not one. Not the GCOM people, not James Bond, not Calvin London, not Walter Lawrence, not anybody. Nobody. Not one conviction. And they know they don't have evidence to convict anybody. They just want to persecute people, harass people, abuse the powers they have through the police and the criminal justice system. People like that must not govern. Government must not be placed in the hands of evil racists like Anil Nandlal, Bart Jagdeo, Irfan Ali, and others. And it is time we stop accepting their persecution. It is time we stop accepting their persecution. Now, these guys are so vicious that they even target people who are friends and relatives and families and associates of people they like. So if they see somebody talking to me, they go and call the minister, say, fire the man. If they see somebody talking to James Bond or Valdo Lawrence or Shari Duncan or somebody they don't like, that person must be fired. They believe that them alone must be free to associate and express themselves in the Guyanese society. People like that should not be given power. And if they were given power, people like that must be seized. The power must be seized from them. People like that, the power must be seized from them. And so we're at crossroads in Guyana. Black people, according to the PP, must not have contracts. Black people, according to the PP, mustn't have jobs. Black people, according to the PP, mustn't own businesses, mustn't own lands. And those who own big businesses and have massive lands, they're taking them away from them. They're attempting to take them away from them. The Black people from the diaspora who went home and bought lands advertised by NISIL, who bought Gaisuko property and land, they're trying to take it away. People who entered contracts with the government, former government, they declare that those contracts aren't valid, arbitrarily. No court sanctioned anything. As a matter of fact, they specifically went to court to ask the Chief Justice to declare the actions of the government unlawful, and they were chased out of court because the Constitution says the government remains in power until a new government assumes office or a new president is elected and sworn in. And we know that no president was sworn in. We had a president that was installed. But we accept that as being sworn in, albeit it's an installation. So we have this situation where the PPP, an installed government, is basically shutting out Black people from all aspects of society. All. No contracts, no business, no nothing. And if you associate with Black people, if they like you and you associate with Black people, then they don't like you no more. They're questioning people. Oh, you know this person, you know that person. Why are you and this person talking? Why he's your friend? But when the coalition was in government, they could be friends with anybody. But Black people mustn't be friends with people they don't like, or else you'll be ostracized. We can't have people like that with power. And if you want to know where I'm going with this, I'm saying the PP does not deserve to be in power. And people who are not deserving of power should not get it. That's where I'm going with this. And there are instances where in this same world, in this hemisphere, where the international community took away power from dictators and autocrats like the PPP. And we're getting to a point where power must be taken away from the PPP. Because they are running an apartheid, South Africa-style apartheid government, where they're subjugating Black people, taking away our rights, taking away opportunities from us, taking away land and property and jobs and businesses. And they're using the resources and monies of the state to enrich themselves and to enrich their East Indian support base. They're giving out 1 and 2 token Black people little contract. But the Black people they're giving contracts to make up 0.0000.1% of the population. So here we are, where the PPP is running an ethnocracy in Guyana, an apartheid government, and trying to drive Black people into servitude. Well, is that we rebel against slavery? Keep sharing the link. I understand our YouTube stream is not, we're going to take a break and come back in less than 20 seconds to reconnect our YouTube stream. 20 seconds. So that's connected, reconnected. So guys, welcome on YouTube. Yeah. So, and you all remember that during the recount and the issues that led up to and after the last elections, members of the PPP, their supporters, leading surrogates, were saying that David Granger shouldn't run Guyana. They don't want black person shouldn't govern Guyana. Well, if the Indians don't want a Black person to govern Guyana, we Black people don't want Indian governors to either. It's plain as that. So my view is now we must start to examine academically, initially, whether or not we should divide the country. Let them go to Barbados or wherever and run and govern themselves. Because the majority of us, Amerindians, mixed race, and Black people, don't want them governors either, I'm pretty sure, those who don't support them. So today I have made the call that we must now examine, and Black people will have to do it. We will have to set up some sort of committee or some forum to examine whether or not we need to separate the country. And I'm not advocating for a divisive nation. The nation has been divided by the PPP. The nation has reached a point where we have to determine whether we want racists to govern us. In South Africa, the people made a determination that they don't want racists govern them. In America, the people made a determination that they don't want racists to govern them. Donald Trump, they kicked him out. And in South Africa, they kicked out the racists and ended apartheid. In Guyana, we have a different circumstance. We have a racist apartheid government, but we have a situation where they were able to use their money to buy international influence. So the people of Guyana will have to either decide to come together and kick them out by hook or crook, or split the country, let them govern left, and we gonna govern ourselves on the right, like what they decided in Sudan. Because to me, it's gonna happen anyway. The PPP is plunging the country straight into civil war. And people don't want to talk about it because they want to, they are inciting a civil war against Black people. And it's time to get militant. It's time for a revolution. It's time for us to fight and defeat racism. And so those PP supporters who want to go and run and say, oh, Rickford Burke wants this and that. Yes, I said it. We're going to fight and defeat racism in Guyana. We're going to have a rebellion to defeat racism in Guyana. We must have a revolution to defeat racism, PPP racism in Guyana. And for those people in Ghana who are scared to speak up, there's no law banning you from fighting racism. Racism is one of the most unjust evils in the world. It comes just after the Holocaust and slavery. Racism is right up there. And we have a right to fight and defeat it. That's what colonialism was about. That's what the slave rebelled against. It is racism that drove slavery. It is racism by Nazi Jews that led to the Holocaust. And it is PPP racism that have led to the genocide of 1,400 Black men during their government in 1992 to 2011 or 2015, you could say. And it is their genocide that they're inciting now that will lead to civil war in Ghana. And we must face the reality. And I am saying that, you know, Black people said no one be killed anymore. They did it to Isaiah Henry, they did it to Mr. Boston, they did it to Kevin Andrews. And they're going to do it to any one of you in Guyana. And we must confront it. We must confront it. You know, tomorrow morning you're going to see screaming headlines. I'm saying Black people in Guyana and people who don't support the PPP, Amerindians and East Indians who don't support the PPP, must not allow them to drive them into bondage. They must fight them back. If they want to have a war, respond appropriately. The Black people who they have a war against, respond appropriately. Because what they're going to do is destroy all the Black leaders in Guyana. Criminalize them. And we know they have the capability to do that. You had Adel Nanla jumping on TV to say that Rickford Burke is a convicted criminal. He never get locked up yet. Never went to jail yet. But he could go and say that, fabricate stuff. And that's what he did against the GCOM officials. That's what he did against the PNC officials. That's what he did against the former CEOs, the Commissioner of Lands and Surveys, Trevor Ben, London, Calvin London. That's what he did against Paul Slow. That's what they did. He is behind it. He and Jack Dale. And then they have the little cronies below. And I'm saying that these people should not freely come into your community. Do what Bar Jack Dale said. Chase them out. Chase them out. Run them out. That's what Bar Jack Dale said. And as a PPP governance, I'm saying it's time to grind government in Guyana to a halt and to end racism. I am convinced that that's the right thing. Grind the government to a halt. Break up all the commissions. Make sure there's no judicial commission, service commission, teaching service commission, police service commission, public. None must exist. Break it up. Break up GCOM. The commissioners from AP and UAFC must resign from GCOM. What are they still doing there? When the PPP is trying to make GCOM one of their bedrocks. And right now, they're fighting to put a racist PPP Indian as the CEO of GCOM, the Chief Elections Officer, because they want to manipulate the electoral process. And we know what happened when you had a racist PPP East Indian as the chairman of GCOM. We know what happened. They stole a seat from the APNU, sorry, from the AFC in 2011 and gave it to the PPP. And then in 2015, Global Budu, who was the CEO then, attempted to steal votes equivalent to one seat from the APNU coalition, and he was caught by Vincent Alexander. He should be fired right there. And then they tried to bring him back. And after he was so heavily criticized, they backed away. Keep sharing the link. So now they bring back somebody, they brought back somebody who's a racist PPP, and they're trying to plant that person as the CEO for GCOM. And I'm saying, break up GCOM. Break up the Elections Commission, the APNU AFC coalition, because you have Claudette Singh, who's a snake, who I, for one, had a lot of respect for, but lost it. She is in full cahoots and conspiracy with the PPP. We saw that throughout the elections process. So why are they sitting there giving legitimacy to a process? I'm saying, again, the commissioners from the coalition should resign from GCOM. Leave GCOM without a commission until we can figure out how we're going to govern this country. Whether we're going to split the country or not. Or we're going to have a formula for governing the country equitably. And then again, when it comes to their fabrication, they just did it recently from Orphanally, Bart Jack Dale, Robeson Ben, all fabricated allegations that it is Black people in the diaspora who burned down Brickdown police station, and Black people in the diaspora who burned down the police headquarters building, the building in the police compound, headquarters compound that housed Office of Professional Responsibility, police living quarters, and the DPP's office. Robeson Ben said somebody from the diaspora. The fire service said the investigation proved, one, the building at the police headquarters, the cause of the fire at that building was an overloaded electrical circuit. They so cheap, they didn't want to wire the place properly. So they have a million equipment plugged into that outlet. It caused the fire. They said Black people in the diaspora caused the fire. Pyrotechnic Black people. Then the police investigation into the Brickdown police station fire found that a prisoner by the name of Mr. Green alleged that he burned it down. Well, the police alleged he confessed to burning down the Brickdown police station. Seems totally impossible. And then he said, no, he did not confess. That matter is now sub judice, it's in court. But they are so blatantly racist and mendacious. They have the gall to stand up publicly and say, these fires were caused by somebody in the diaspora. Somebody in the diaspora. Jump on a plane with pyrotechnics, light everything, flew into Guyana, passed security at Brickdown, passed security at headquarters, and burned down the building. Actually, if we listen carefully, they probably want to accuse the Congress members who spoke at the rally of the fire in Brickdown, because they accused Chris Vance, who's the East New York leader for Black Lives Matter. They said Chris Vance went to Ghana, burn down the place. They said disrespectful of African Guyanese. And for the life of me, I can't understand why you have Black members of the cabinet sit down there like buffoons and watch their people mistreated and can't say anything. How could you sit in a PP talking you're representative of the Black constituency and see your family, your kith and kin? You don't mind what you do, you would not be transformed into an East Indian. You have members of the PPP cabinet, Black people, sit down there and execute plans with the PPP to marginalize their own people. And then they come and tell us about one Guyana. Their concept of one Guyana is plans for themselves and the couple of Black people, the 2 or 3 or 10 Black people who support the PPP. And they call it one Guyana. Well, like I said earlier, let them take piece of the country and go over there and form their one Guyana. And everybody in Guyana, listen to my voice right now, must take to social media and call up their friends and everybody talk about it. Talk about whether or not we need to split the country. Let the PPP take Barbies and let them go live there with their racist cult members like Jim Jones. Let them go there and let the rest of the Guyanese people live in peace and govern themselves. Because we're heading down the road of Sudan. We're going to civil war. And it is the same ethnic tribalism that led to the splitting of Sudan, the country. Sudan, and now we have South Sudan. It is something Black people in Guyana must think about, and they could call me racist all they want. I don't care. We're responding to PPP racism. We're devising a strategy to deal with PPP racism. We cannot allow the PPP to marginalize Black people and drive us into servitude, drive us into slavery. They have the mindset of colonial masters. Look at Barjack, they'll sit down telling people who must be friends with whom. And we've stopped talking about it. But thousands of people in Guyana have lost family. Those over 1,400 Black people that have been killed by PPP death squads, who they try to justify, and say, well, these people are criminals or whatever it is. They have relatives, they have children, sisters, brothers, parents, cousins, uncles, aunts, grandparents, nieces, nephews. Those people are still in sorrow. They'll never receive justice. And we've stopped talking about it. I haven't forgotten. I haven't forgotten that the PPP had death squads killing people, and that the death squads reported to the Minister of National Security, who reported to Barjack Deo. And I want to reiterate what I said. There's no way those people should have their liberty driving around Guyana with sirens and bodyguards. If they can't get justice from the criminal justice system, the people must deliver justice to them. We can't allow people to be murdered. Guyana is the only place I know where people get away with murder, and probably Russia. And Barjabeo's ideal society is Russia. He wants to build a little Russia in Guyana. Ain't happen. Tal. Ain't happening. We're not going to allow it to happen. And they could intimidate people at home because people are scared that they will kill them. But they can't do it to us in the Guyana. We're of a different breed. We're of a different mindset. We're not scared of the PPP. They can't do us anything. And when they try to do us something, something will happen back to them. Justice. Justice. So we need a response in Guyana for what has happened to Winston Jordan. There must be a response. There must be justice. Somebody must get sued, or the people must take to the streets, or there must be a response. Whatever that response is. That's my message tonight. There must be justice for the things that the PPP is doing. And they might as well, them and their supporters might as well stop trolling me and complaining. I am responding to the vicious politics of the PPP. I am responding to the murderous conduct of the PPP. I am responding to the nasty politics of the PPP. And my response is we must meet them toe to toe. An eye for an eye, if you can't get justice through the justice system. An eye for an eye, a toe for a toe, a finger up for a finger. Until they learn that they can't dominate the society, they can't disrespect Black people and Amerindians and East Indians who don't support them. And until they could figure out a way to sit with other stakeholders of the country and find an arrangement for equitable governance, we should not play a game with them. Don't cooperate with them. And if our politicians who we support decide to go against the creed of our people, we must not support those politicians either. We must defeat racism in Guyana, on whichever side it is. I don't care. We never tolerate racism in Guyana. And right now, the PPP is the racist party. And like I said, they've murdered people, they've gotten away with it. They've falsely imprisoned people, they've gotten away with it. They've fabricated charges against people, they've gotten away with it. They're stealing the country's money, pickpocket, giving billions of dollars to their supporters. Would you believe, like CGI revealed today, Mohammed's enterprise is under investigation by the FBI and several other countries, several other companies. And the PPP is giving them contract, and the US Embassy is silent. You think the David Granger administration could have gotten away with giving a company on the criminal investigation a $500 million contract? That ambassador will be screaming to the top of her lungs. But they're silent. These white racist ambassadors and other representatives in Ghana, they're silent. The leading ones are from the West. And there's an avalanche of anti-Black sentiment in the West right now. Chief among whom is the American ambassador. And we're having a meeting coming up with the Western Hemisphere's Affairs Assistant Secretary of State. And we're going to deal with that issue. They called me up to yesterday. We're going to deal with that issue. My people, we cannot allow what happened to Winston Jordan and what has happened to all the other people who they have arrested and mistreated and tried to humiliate to happen again. There must be a serious response, a response that must shake the foundations of the country. And they could talk what they want about what I say. I live in America. We have free speech. They can't stop me from saying what I'm saying. We need militancy. We need a revolution against racism. Against racism. Can't tolerate racism anywhere in the world. And I want to see who they're going to go and complain to say that we must fight and end racism in Guyana. Let them go and complain to the State Department that I said we must fight them to end racism. Let them go to the Justice Department and tell them I said we must fight them militantly to end racism. Because the Justice Department had to deal with militant fights here to end Republican racism against Black people. It is worth it. That's my thoughts for tonight. Join me again on Sunday at 7 p.m. New York time, 8 p.m. Guyana time for another edition of Conversation with Rickford Burke. I want to remind you, let us start the conversation. Whether or not we must divide the country and let the PPP racists govern themselves and let Black people live in peace in their own country, in the new country. Have a good night, everybody. Stay safe and make sure you stand up for your rights in Guyana. you.